Roll call, please.
Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Ms. Madiker?
Here.
Mr. Shi?
Here.
Mrs. Peng?
Here.
Mrs. White?
Here.
Mr. Mohan Patel? Here. Mr. Burrell Patel?
Here.
Mr. Rivera?
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Opening statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted in the Board of Education administrative offices. Copies of these notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 4th and January 11th, 2022. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and the applicable state regulations. Thank you. Okay, so welcome everyone here and tuning in. A little housekeeping for tonight. Tonight's our caucus meeting. We are going to be going through the items that you have on the agenda there. The difference tonight, we're going to have a presentation by Ms. Gluck. I'll explain that in a minute. On Tuesday, we'll have our committee reports, and the committee reports will be exciting. Each committee met, and each committee chairperson will report out the highlights of those meetings, any details that are important for the public to understand and know, and importantly, will lead to hopefully some healthy discussion with the public and transparency. Something also very important to report, I'm sure many of you know this that are in this room, but I do want to recognize the fact that Ms. Carol Badofsky has resigned from this board, and we're very excited to be, on this coming Tuesday, we will be passing a resolution to honor her service, her tenure as both a board member and obviously a valued member of this community. And Carol is not only a wonderful person, but will be very big shoes to fill here on the board. So with that said, we did list a legal notice, or place a legal notice this week in the newspaper, and it was, I know I saw it on a lot of social media channels, and I just wanted to walk the public through kind of the process that we will partake in over the next 30 days to replace Carol as a board member. And basically how this works is, as listed in the legal notice, you send a letter of intent and a resume to myself, Ms. Madiger, as Vice President, Dr. Bragan, and I believe Patty in the office, correct? And all of those emails are listed in that legal notice. At that point, we will compile a list of people that are interested, and those are due, I believe, on March 11th, March 10th or 11th, right?
11th.
March 11th. At that point, for our next caucus meeting, which would be March 17th, we will be interviewing these individuals in public. They will be here. We'll give each interviewee a few minutes to introduce themselves, brief introduction, and in addition to that, we will have a list of questions that each candidate will get the same questions. I know some board members, including myself, we sat in a webinar. That was a live webinar yesterday. Coincidentally, there was a webinar by the New Jersey State School Board Association, and the topic was replacing a board member. So when there's a resignation. So we're going to be using some best practices. We're not reinventing or recreating any wheels here. We're using the best practices that other boards in New Jersey use when replacing a board member. Something I just want to emphasize for anyone listening who might be interested. There's probably a perception that the public, okay, is coming to the podium, filing this letter of intent, coming to the podium, and then asking us for our acceptance because it's such an honor to be on this side of things. In fact, we as a board should be striving to advertise ourselves to the public and to show such a highly functioning board that people want to work with us. So not only are we asking, finding who wants to work with us, but we want to know if those folks feel comfortable enough to want to work with us, right? And the way we're going to get the most, I'm making a personal appeal here tonight. Anyone who has an education background, maybe has the community service part of their DNA, people that truly want to do what's best for the students, the community, our school district. Who is out there? I want to tell you that the individuals you see in front of you are wonderful people that give a lot of their time for this, and they want to work with you. So whoever you are, you're watching at home, you're here maybe in the audience, please, please, please consider being a candidate. And we will be fairly, ethically, and very, very enthusiastic about evaluating that letter, your resume, and obviously your interview that night. Looking forward to that. The brief presentation we'll have tonight by Ms. Cluck is about how vendor contracts are acquired. It sounds pretty remedial, right? So we have a huge budget here in Edison Township for the Board of Ed. And it's so, I would say that it's so common that before you're on this side of things, it's almost confusing. You say, well, how is the money spent? How are things done? How do all the nuts and bolts happen throughout the district? And each month we're going to be trying to touch on one individual item, especially things that we feel as a board should be out in the public, and to show you what efforts we make to promote transparency and fairness in things like acquiring contracts, okay? So Ms. Cluck is going to go through that briefly with the public, and I want also you to pay attention at the end. She has a really cool thing that the previous board made an effort to institute, and we'll go over what makes Edison unique in terms of acquiring vendor contracts. Ms. Gluck, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, this is just a general overview of our purchasing. Listed here are the federal regulations, state statutes, and other administrative codes and policies that we, as a public school, are required to adhere to. Now, the methods of procurement that we utilize include the bids, the quotes, RFPs, co-ops, etc. Now, the procurement thresholds are established by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services. It's important to know the applicable thresholds. Here in Edison, since we have a QPA, our bid threshold is $44,000. So those are goods and services over $44,000. In the DLGS local finance notice, they also say that 15% of the bid threshold, which in this case is $6,600, up to the bid threshold, $44,000, now requires 2 competitive quotes. If it's under the $6,600, then you only need 1. But now if you don't have a QPA, you can see that the bid threshold is $32,000. So it becomes more restrictive without the QPA. So for Edison, since any time we purchase goods and services greater than $44,000, we have to go out to bid unless it meets the criteria of an exception. So you can see here when we do award, we award based upon price and other factors if it's less than the bid threshold, and then we can award on the lowest responsible bidder if it's over the bid threshold, and we go out to bid, that's $44,000 and over. Okay, so it's important to note that these thresholds refer to the vendor in aggregate. So we look at the vendor as a whole, not on an individual purchase order. So for example, if Edison High School wants to order a balloon arch for graduation, say from Balloon Time, that costs $5,000. So according to this, you only need the 1 quote. But then say J.P. Stevens also wants to order a balloon arch from Balloon Time. Same thing, $5,000. Now the total is $10,000 for Balloon Time. So according to the rules and regulations, J.P. Stevens would now be required to get another quote. Okay, so again, you have to remember that it's based upon the aggregate by vendor. And with these many schools, one school doesn't know that it's using the same vendor. So we get lots of questions like, well, why do we need to get a second quote when this school doesn't? And it's based upon these thresholds. Okay, so it's also important to note that even though we have a bid, we do not have to accept the bid. Down on the bottom, we can reject all bids for any of the reasons stated below. So if we go out for a transportation route for a special education student and the bid comes back with the lowest bid of, say, $1,000 a day, at 180 days, you're talking $180,000 for the year for one student, which is just above and beyond what we've budgeted for or what we've estimated. So we can actually reject those bids and then rearrange our own internal routes to provide those services. So even though we go out to bid, we do not have to accept the lowest bid. So we do not have to go out to bid if the goods and services fall under any of these exceptions: professional services, textbooks, travel and expenses for conferences, if the vendor is under New Jersey state contract for those goods or services, or if it's a state-approved co-op, we do not have to advertise for bid. We would have to advertise for an RFQ for the extraordinary unspecifiable services, like for an insurance broker, or for an RFP for a food service management company. Now, we can also negotiate contract without bidding, but again, there are rules. The bids have to have been advertised on 2 occasions, no bids were received, or on both occasions, costs weren't reasonably priced, or a combination of both. We can then negotiate an award as long as it meets this criteria. So say if we advertised for the special ed transportation route, and on one occasion, we didn't receive any bids, and on another occasion, the cost just wasn't reasonable. Then we can negotiate a contract, an award with another vendor for those services, but for just that specific route, as long as we have a 2/3 affirmative vote from the board. Vendor documents. Okay, to become a vendor, there's a list of documents required based on, again, the aggregate procurement for that vendor. So going back to balloon time, they would not be required to provide a business registration certificate if they provided balloons to just Edison High School. But because the aggregate was under 6,600, it was only 5,000, but then would be required to submit a BRC when JP Stevens requisition, since now the total is $10,000 for that vendor. Okay, of course there are exceptions. So for example, if the purchase is through a state contract, a nonprofit, so any of these exceptions. Now, for example, say if balloon time was under New Jersey state contract, then we wouldn't require a business registration certificate. I want to touch upon the duration of contracts, the length of contracts. So you see professional services. What we're referring to are legal services, auditing services. Those professional service contracts, the original can't be longer than 12 months. No extension can be granted beyond the 12 months. 12 months is the total amount of contract time for professional services. But then you have a contract for other than professional services. For example, like a service to maintain the upkeep of all the turf fields. Okay, and the contract is for 3 years or less. Then the contract can include a provision for a 1 2-year extension or 2 1-year extensions, not to exceed 5 years. So the maximum total for that type of contract is 5 years. Now regarding bids, the original contract can't be more than 2 years, but can include, again, a 1 2-year extension or 2 1-year extensions, so that total contract can't be more than 4 years. All right, this is the list of documents that we request when we go out to bid. The documents listed in red are mandatory, so if a vendor does not provide any of these documents that are in red, that vendor's bid will be disqualified, so we won't even consider it. So any of these red documents can't be cured if it's omitted from the bid submission. Now, Edison Township Schools is unique in the sense that it uses a digital procurement platform for its full and open competition needs for bids, RFPs, RFQs, and it's called EC sourcing. Okay. It is a procurement software application that we use to collect data, and assist in the analysis of awarding contracts. And this is what I want to show you. This is, okay. So for EC sourcing, say for example, I'm going to bring up the roof maintenance and repair services. This is the program. You can see over here, 8 suppliers or 8 vendors were invited and 5 accepted. Okay. Now, when the bidders come on to the website, they see this page. And this just lists all the bid specs and general requirements. Attached is, in this PDF, it's the same bid package that we advertise in the newspapers, that we advertise on our website. It's the same. It's just now in digital form. Included, let me see, hold on. In the bid package is called a bid sheet. And this bid sheet states what we're looking for. So for example, for this bid, we're looking for a cost per hour for a journeyman that works Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. A laborer, what those rates are. So this is a bid sheet that mirrors the one included in the advertised bid specs, but this is here digitally so the bidders can enter their bid amounts. And once they enter their bid amounts and upload their documents, then what happens is after we close the bid, so say a bid closes on Thursday at 10 o'clock, then this program actually handles that, okay? So once the bid closes, you can see that it saves valuable time to collect the data and enter the information into this type of spreadsheet. Okay, so it's ready to be analyzed. So you can go line by item. Here are the 5 bidders: Northeast Roof, Pravco, USA General, VMG Group, and White Rock. So if you go down line by line item, you can see the ones highlighted in green is the best bid for that line item, and then highlighted in yellow is the second best bid. Now, we have 5 bidders here and 22 lines. It doesn't seem like much, but then if we have to go out for transportation routes, and we have to go out to 200, go out for 200 routes, and there are 5, now you're looking at analyzing and trying to consolidate 1,000 lines of data. What happens here with this program, this software, it gathers the information within minutes, like you see. And again, if a vendor is missing a required document or a red document, then that doesn't even get to the analysis process. It's automatically withheld from this. And what's great about this program, you can see also on the bottom, in blue, you can see the total for the project. So for this project, you can see Northeast Roof, the total was $816,000, Pravco $613,000, USA General $711,000, VMG Group $1,082,000, and White Rock $992,000. So it was able to do that within minutes. Now, EC sourcing, it's great that it's digital. We can never forget a bid that was forgotten on someone's desk. We can program the bid with dates to send out automatic emails to prospective bidders to remind them of due dates. The application is also programmed to close a bid on a specific date and time, and every bid that is received is date stamped, so we don't have anyone stating that we delivered a bid to the Ed Center, but we missed it. This software definitely helps with the efficiency of the bidding process, with less paperwork and less chance of error on the district site. As great as this software application is, be advised, I just want everyone to know, it does not eliminate the human factor of decision-making. The administrative team would still collaborate by reviewing and discussing the information collected. And then through a resolution on an agenda, we would make our recommendations to the board to award. And that's the process.
Ms. Gluck, in a nutshell, would you say we're using this all of the time, or most of the time, or some of the time? I know it's brand new, so it's hard to use it all of the time. You're just learning it. But how often are we using it now?
As much as possible. There are certain times if an outside vendor is doing the bidding for us, we may not do this, but I'm anticipating to use it all the time, especially, with our bus transportation routes, our annual, advertising. So it takes a while to get it up and running, but now that we have the experience of it, it makes it that much easier.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was very cool.
Okay.
Any
President?
questions? Yes.
Can I ask a few questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. Patel.
Thank you. In regard to this program, do we have any ways to detect if multiple bids are being submitted by the same company? Like we have done, we have had issues in the past where the same company placed a bid using different addresses. So that's one question. The other one I have is, does the current program allow for reverse auction bidding, just in case, like for example, if you're competing, you're competing with energy companies to try to get a bid where they're competing with each other, we could try to get the lower rates when they're doing that. So if that is an option. And the third question I have is, when and who can have access to the bids? So for example, if you have the bids in the process right now, who would be able to access it and what time would they be able to access that? Thank you.
Okay. In regards to the first question, as far as can they submit multiple bids for the same bid? Okay. The information that we have here is based upon vendors' contact names, email addresses, physical addresses. So if there was a vendor who wanted to submit a bid using different contact information, we would not be aware of that. The system, there's no way for the system to tell. Okay. As far as having access to the information, once it closes, and again, you can do this report as soon as it closes. You can download it into Excel, and you can actually email it to everyone who submitted a bid. So they can have access to it, but we would be the one controlling that access, okay? As far as the reverse, we haven't had any experience in that, so I really can't answer that. I can speak to the vendor and see if that's possible, but we have not had any experience in that.
Awesome, thank you. And just one more follow-up. In terms of internally, who can access that and when they could access that?
I have access to this. The purchasing agent, Will Calabas, Facilities and Buildings and Grounds, Dr. Bragan, and that's about it.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, Board
Mr.
President.
Shi.
I just want to give some background why we went this route. In the past, it's all the traditional paper, and you send in the packet and stuff like that. So it started several years ago when we had the Woodbrook construction. It was an $11 million construction. There were 3 bids that's within $500 apart. So I'm not saying anything wrong, but it's very rare to see a $11 million project with 3 bids that's within a $500 difference. To protect our employees and to protect the process, that's what we were looking for, software like this. One of the advantage of the advantage of this software is once the bid once it's your of 2 weeks, when you put the bid out for 2 weeks, these 2 weeks the vendors can put it in. They can put in their bid, but we cannot see it. So the software will have a lock saying that you cannot see the result until you open the bid. And at 4 o'clock, whatever, Friday afternoon, you decide, then when you go into the system, you can see this. Before this, we cannot see this. So that's to protect our employees and the process. As far as the question that Mr. Patel asked, we actually had this instance. We have a vendor who submitted 2 bids for a work in our district. And one is using the actual address of the facility, of the company. The other was using P.O. Box. So it was 2 bids, only 2 bids, and the guy got it. How do we find out? Is when we do the operational audit, we look at the I-9 form. It's the same guy, okay? So to add the two, I understand that we cannot, if you can use different addresses and stuff, can we add a document, I-9, as a part of the document that they need to provide to us? Then you can look at the I-9 document and see if the company that registered with P.O. Box and the physical address is the same company.
Yes, we can add the I-9
Yeah.
to our required documents.
Correct.
That's
So if
fine.
that will prevent that happening, one little catch on that.
Thank
It's
you.
actually brilliant, thank you.
Any other comments?
Yes. The other thing is that we talked about, these are the bids that, the contract was $44,000 and more, right? Is our plan to go lower than that, or we're going to use this software for anything $44,000 and more?
It's a good question. I think we're both on the Budget Oversight Committee. I think we could probably have that discussion at committee and make a recommendation to the board
Okay.
and to our business administrative team.
All right, thank you. And I would prefer that we go down a little bit more. And I hope that all our bids, that we use the software, and we make this link of the software on our website. So the vendor doesn't have to go look for ads and stuff. All they need to do is just remember, when they need anything from Edison School District, go to I think on the left-hand side, there's like a vendor bid something. Then there's a link to this. Anything they need to do, just go in and look for it. If there's anything that they're interested, go bid for it, instead of looking for the papers and phone calls and those stuff.
Very good.
And the thing is, this is for the contractors. How about professional contract, professional services? Professional services, I know there's no need for bid, but it's a common practice. We do a RFP, request for proposal, right? And you don't have to pick the one with the lowest proposal. So I just want to, know what kind of professional services we are going to go to our RFP route. What are the professional services we are not? And, we have seen that one of the professional services started this year, we didn't go that route. So any clarification that, to the board and to the public, which kind of professional services that we should follow the RFP process? If we don't have the answer, we can discuss, but if there's an answer, there's a direction from the leadership, if you don't mind to share with us.
Well, I think our goal is always to put an RFP together if we are afforded the time to do so. I know that we went, there's a few RFPs that were issued recently for professional services, so this way we can compare not just pricing, but services. As you said, it's not just about the lowest bid. When you're worrying about professional services, there's more to it than that.
Correct.
So I think that it only makes sense that when afforded the ability to have the time to do so, we do move towards an RFP as much as we can.
Okay.
I don't have any, I don't know of any professional services on the horizon that I'm aware of that will not be going through an RFP process.
Okay, thank you.
That's the short answer.
Doug,
Mr.
just
President,
Yes.
can I say something?
Ms.
So-
Madiger.
So I just want to thank you, Anne, for putting this together. It was very informative and great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. President, can I speak?
Right.
Mr. Rivera.
I also want to say, Ann, great job with the presentation. I appreciate it. The other thing I want to say is, Mr. Shi, I kind of agree with you in the fact that maybe lowering it from 44,000, going a little bit lower, I agree with you. The other thing, too, is that I noticed that every year when another administration comes up here, people make decisions. People out there don't like the decisions. Maybe we need to start looking at these in regards to rewriting policy or writing policy on how we do RFPs. Just a suggestion, because it seems like Whoever's sitting on the board makes a decision, doesn't make everyone happy. The following year, when the board changes, a different decision's made, people aren't happy, so maybe we need to incorporate things into policy and follow a standard practice. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Any other comment?
Yeah, Board President, it's a good point. So,
Mr. Shi?
yes, it's a good point from Mr. Rivera. So we can look into have some sort of a policy in place and say, hey, anything over a certain dollar amount, go to this software or whatever. So there's no, whenever change leadership or anything on the school board, we don't have to have that discussion. Just follow the policy and just go from there.
I agree. Anyone else?
Doug, just one question.
Ms.
I had.
Madiger.
I just thought about this. Maybe Dr. Bragan or Ann, whoever. So the database, where does the database sit? Does it sit on our server or somewhere else?
Our server.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board members?
Great presentation, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gluck. Dr. Bragan, administration reports.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. As you go down the superintendent's report, there's a few items there. The first one you can see is the approval of Ann Gluck as a qualified purchasing agent. Congratulations, Ann, on being certified as such.
Congratulations.
We will have our student recognitions. I will not read over all those names because we are going to recognize the students at our official action meeting on Tuesday. After that, we do have the approval of resignation of board member Carol Bodofsky, and we're going to have a little resolution to recognize her years of service at the meeting on Tuesday. I just want to personally say that Carol was a great board member for me as a superintendent to work with, and her knowledge and expertise in education I always found very interesting, and her perspective was insightful, and I'm going to miss her input from me personally. I'm just speaking for myself. And I hope she's well and wish her well, and hopefully I could still get to stay in touch with her. You'll also find a resolution further down on Youth Art Month, which is in March. And I'm going to read the resolution if you don't mind, Mr. Board President, because when we vote on it, we usually
Please
don't read
do.
them. Basically, it says, whereas art education contributes powerful educational benefits to all elementary, middle, and secondary students in the following. Art education develops students' creative problem-solving and critical thinking abilities. Art education teaches sensitivity to beauty, order, and other expressive qualities. Art education gives students a deeper understanding of multicultural values and beliefs. Art education reinforces and brings to life what students learn in other subjects. And art education interrelates students' learning into art production, art history, art criticism, aesthetics. And whereas our national leaders have acknowledged the necessity of including art experiences in all students' education, now therefore be it resolved that the Edison Township Board of Education officially recognizes March 2022 as Youth Art Month, encouraging the support of quality art programs for children and youth in our community. I think that's a great endeavor, and the arts definitely are worthy of just for the appreciation of the arts, but also the development of our young people and their full capacity of individuals, and we support the arts in every way that we can. There's a meeting date change. A board meeting was originally scheduled for May 17th. We're going to move that to May 18th. That's our action meeting. Under curriculum instruction, you're going to see approval of the BABES program for our second grade students presented by our Edison Municipal Alliance. They've done it over a number of years. It's a great program. It's one of the other partnerships we have with our community. There's an approval of field trips. We have 2 field trips going out from Edison High School, one to New York City for the Model UN, and the other for our band competition down in Virginia in March. There is our professional developments to approve for our staff members. After that, we have our pupil special services report on our out-of-district placements. You know, those change on a monthly basis. There's a few terminations, a few additions due to students moving out and changes in program. Mr. Board President, that's all I have on the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bragan. Ms. Gluck, a finance report, please.
For finance, we have the approval of the minutes from our caucus and public meetings from January 2022. We have our investment report, report of the board secretary, report of the treasurer of school monies, and then we have our finance resolutions, which include the transfer of funds. We have a couple of bids, a revised bid, a change order for Edison High School, Non-public school technology program, obsolete items. We have our electronic transfers for our self-funded medical and prescription costs, and our transportation report. That's it for finance.
Very good, thank you. We can move to board member open discussion. If the board doesn't mind, I'd like to start, as we have, with Mr. Shi and move down the line here. If anyone has a board member comment?
Yes, I actually have a question for Dr. Bregan.
That's unusual.
Yes. This is about our students who attend school out of district. And we subsidize these students for their transportation. And so my question to Dr. Bregan is, hang on, let me see. I wrote them down. Give me a second, I'm sorry.
If I know you,
Okay.
Mr. Shi, it's a multi-phase question.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. So we call it aid in lieu of transportation, right? So the first question is, when do we start to pay these kids? Do we start from kindergarten? And the second question is, what is the process to get paid? We need to let the parents need to let the district know that their kids live in the district and so on. There are some private schools, they collect the information, they send the whole kids' information back to us, so that will, help us a little bit. But for some of the private schools, they don't do that. I'm sorry, okay. Someone told me that they can't hear me with my mask on, sorry. So what is the process to get paid? If the parents need to send email to someone, do we have a contact person that they can send the email to? And the third question is, how often do we pay them? And the fourth question, the last one, is what is the dollar amount this year? I think every year it changes slightly. So what is the dollar amount?
Is that it?
Yes.
Sir. As everyone may or may not know, any school district that provides transportation to their students in their general education settings on a typical basis, for those students at elementary that are 2 miles or greater from school, or 2.5 miles at the secondary level. For students that enter non-public schools, that would be residents of our town, they're entitled to transportation. And when we can provide it, we do. In years past, for students that attended St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Joe's, we were able to provide busing and transportation, and the students would be entitled to that transportation in the same manner if they were our high school students. However, there are times when we don't have enough students attending a particular school, or as in this past year, we literally didn't have the resources to provide the transportation. And according to the statute, those non-public students are then entitled to what's referred to as aid in lieu. It's aid in lieu of providing that transportation. And there are some requirements on how you do that. Traditionally, the non-public school, we send a letter out, and I think we either sent it out or sending it out from the business office shortly, that basically says, please let your students that reside in our town know that if they're interested in applying for transportation or aid in lieu for next year, which is September 2022, they have to submit what's called, I believe it's a B6T form, if I got that right. And that form will get submitted back to their school. Then we get that information, and then over the summer, we send the parents, I believe it's a B7T form or something thereabouts. I might have those numbers wrong, but I think it's pretty close, which basically acknowledges, yes, your child does go to Wardlow Hartridge School, and you would like to get reimbursed for the aid in lieu amount because you're not getting transportation. That amount is set, as Mr. Shi mentioned, by the state on an annual basis. Currently, it's $1,000. So if we have 700 students that attend non-public schools that request aid in lieu, that would be $700,000. I believe this year it's around $890,000, roughly. That's about 890 students, $1,000 per student. The payments are made twice a year. We try to make it somewhere around December and January, and then towards the end of the year. $500 each if they attended the school for the entire session. Students as young as kindergarten all the way through grade 12 are eligible.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't know my kids went to kindergarten somewhere else, so I didn't know I could get some money. So for those parents, So for the parents who send their kids, a kindergarten to outside the school district, and if you live outside the 2 mile radius, you can apply and get a couple bucks. All right. So just one more thing, Board President, if you don't mind.
Yes, Mr.
wanna, congratulate the Edison High School robotics team. They went to the state. They got 2 awards. One is a portfolio. The other is connection and fundraising. These kids, they work very hard in the robotics, and a lot of these robotics parts, we all know, they're pretty expensive. You see them, they're little stuff, but they're very, very expensive. So they did a good job fundraising. And so any of the private businesses or anyone who wants to support these kids, please, contact Mr. Ross. We'll welcome your generosity for these kids, right? The other thing is, just want to mention the J.P. Stevens Choir. They had a fantastic performance at the St. Matthews. I missed the performance. I walked in, they just walked out. So majority, I think several of the board members were there, and I heard it was a great performance, and I wish them luck for their performance in Boston. Thank you very much, Board President.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. Mr. Rivera?
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I got to agree with Mr. Shi, and my first kid missed that check. But Dr. Bragan, I did get the second one a couple of days ago, so I appreciate that.
We'll make sure that one goes out.
Yeah, let's just hope it doesn't bounce, but yeah, I did receive it. I do have a couple of comments, not questions. I'm new to this, so I just want to say that it's been a very busy couple of weeks. The first thing I want to do is recognize Black History Month. I want to thank our staff and our students who participated in the celebration of achievements by African Americans and recognizing their central role to the U.S. history. In my line of work, appreciating, celebrating, and boosting staff morale has always been a need for me. So I believe that coming together to show appreciation to one another is important, and to create a safe, healthy environment for our wonderful staff and our students. So with that said, I wanted to recognize the following for assisting our parents, our staff, and our students. February 7th to 11th was National Counselors Week. February 9th was actually Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. And February 22nd, which is coming up, is School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. So I want to thank all of you personally, and I want to sincerely thank all the parties for their hard work and dedication to Edison Public Schools. So I want to officially thank our counselors, our crossing guards, and also our bus drivers. Thank you. I know the year hasn't been easy. I also wanted to remind everybody that February 14th to the 20th is Random Acts of Kindness. I guess you guys could see the administrator, school guy in me. It's a week dedicated to kindness. I encourage everyone, not just the child, our adults, people in this room, to take that extra conscious step to brighten somebody's day, because the guy next to you, you never know, he might need that. So keep that in mind. I also want to recognize some of the great things I've seen going on in the Edison Public Schools. Again, it's been a busy few weeks. So I wanted to thank Karen Kirkpatrick. She invited me to last month's multicultural fair at Edison High School. The event celebrated various ethnic, cultural, and gender differences in our community. It was great to socialize with the adults and the children. I also wanted to thank Irene Wang for her invite to last month's celebration of the Chinese New Year. Again, the event was informative and it celebrated the Chinese culture. And I also want to thank the staff at Lindenau for hosting Family Literacy Night. It was great because it was Readers Today and Leaders Tomorrow. Families were able to explore the 7 leader in me habits. The event was great and students enjoyed it. I also wanted to say that I feel that the Board of Ed is out to a very good start. Like I said, I'm new to this. Committees have been meeting, discussions are taking place for the betterment of Edison Public Schools. I have personally attended the curriculum meetings, the library meetings, the budget meetings, and I even reached out to the PTO leadership at Washington and Lindenau elementary schools, where I'm the Board of Education liaison. It's been great conversations. And I also want to end this by, I want to thank Carol for all of her hard work and dedication to the staff and students of Edison Public Schools. She was actually one of the people that motivated me, amongst others, Ms. Conway, to get involved and assist and help the kids and our staff in Edison Public Schools. So I wish Carol the best. She's going to be missed. I really wish that I could spend some more time with her. But I just want to say thank you, Carol. And that's all, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Ms. Peng?
Yeah, I just want to mention something that I was invited to this Lunar New Year celebration last Monday by Mr. Seiler, principal at JMI. It was a very exciting, Jerry was also there, it was a very exciting event. Though it's only K through 2, kindergarten, first and second grade, it was so well organized. They have made crafts, arts, and they have a little parade throughout the entire school. Just want to say a big thank you to the principal for initializing this, and as well as the PTA, PTO, helping organizing from beginning to the end. They were all there throughout the day. And the most of all, I want to thank the teachers. I spent like maybe an hour in the classroom, which reminded me of me having my children at that young. Like how exhausting, how difficult that is. And these teachers are having 20, 30 of them every single hour for 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day. I just want to say a big thank you for their hard work, for helping these kids, giving them the best education, not just academic, but also multicultural education, and be so creative in their little crafts and parade. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peng. Mr. Mohan Patel.
Thank you, Board President. I have several things I want to talk about. First of all, I want to ask a few questions in regards to some of the issues here. I just want to mention that Mr. Shi brought up a great point in regards to the students' fundraising and so forth. Our kids are actually collecting a lot of money for their clubs right now, or we're collecting dues from our clubs at the moment. Dr. Bragan, is there a possibility that we could have a breakdown of all the clubs that we have in our school district, as well as how much funding is collected from the dues, and how much is missing in terms of what they need to fill the gap, basically? That's one thing. The other thing is, in regards to the finance report, we have these issues with funding for our kids and their programs. Do we know how much we're paying our union reps in regards to their salaries from our school district, that we can actually benefit for the students from that? Because they're also collecting the dues from the teachers at this point as well. So that's something that we could mismatch the funds and go to the school students instead. Thirdly, I would like to also congratulate the choral director from J.P. Stevens in regards to the performance, farewell performance, which was amazing, by the way. And I think we should all definitely go to these performances and see the wonderful talents that our kids have, and appreciating them for what they are performing and supplying into our kids' school systems. In regards to the other thing I want to talk about is, I had a chance to go on the Zoom call with NJSBA in regards to four-year school. What happens is we always push the four-year school system in terms of colleges, right? Four-year college is what we're pushing. But there are so many students that actually do not benefit from a four-year college, and they were talking about this in regards to how some of the schools are offering programs within their high schools regarding special services or certification after they graduate in terms of cosmetology or whatever it may be, in plumbing or so forth. And these are some of the programs that we would like to see in our schools, but I know that we have issues with our space here. So my question is, in regards to the J.P. Stevens expansion, where do we stand? Also, another question into the finance side, I wanted to talk about, it's also the time where everybody's choosing their health insurance and so forth at this moment. I wanted to talk about how much did we save from our health insurance provider last year, and if we could talk about that, we could also let the public know what kind of funding that we have available for the students. Other than that, I want to congratulate all the counselors for their, in appreciation of Counselor Week, Counselor Appreciation Week that was just passing in the past 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks of February. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. I'll take the JP question in terms of the JP Stevens renovation. We have an upcoming Committee of the Whole meeting that's been published for the public to see. You're welcome to attend. It's at the Caucus. It's in the Caucus room at the Board of Education Center. It's a Committee of the Whole, so this way everyone on the board has a voice, and you as the public or anyone watching will be able to see how the facilities meetings go and what our goals are. We're going to talk about shared goals. We're going to talk about what we think the infrastructure needs are, and I think everyone agrees that JP Stevens could use some more space, along with many of the other buildings. We're going to talk about all that. So I invite you all February 28th, and it's at 6 o'clock, I believe?
Yes, 6 o'clock.
So it's from 6 to 8. We're going to do, there will be a public comment period at the end, but we're looking to keep that to a 2-hour meeting. So the second question, Dr. Bragan, you could take that one about the...
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Board President. Regarding the clubs, I'll try to get that information. I'll get it for the full board on what we currently budget for all our clubs and after-school activities. I don't want to quote a number that may be wrong, but I'll get that accurate information. And we'll try to find out what they fund privately. I know somebody mentioned, one of the board members, about the robotics club and how well they did. I know we had a couple of private companies that actually donated the parts and things for that, so we were grateful for that. I think Mrs. Orchid kind of put me in contact with a few people a few times that donated some quality product for that. But I'll get that information. Regarding our association reps, their salaries are part of the public record, as our annual renewal basis are. And with the exception, I think, of the ETA president, everybody has a teaching schedule, and they're an employee of ours. But we can get that information. It's public knowledge. It's on a renewal notice, usually the first week in May. Our health insurance savings right now, we actually met with our broker, and we have a follow-up meeting scheduled with some of our providers as well as our prescription. I believe at the end of the month or in the beginning of March. I forget when that meeting is scheduled. But so far, we budgeted $5 million savings into our budget when we put the budget together last year. And we're on target right now to continue that savings. So it would be $5 million reduction in what our premiums would have cost had we not went to self-insured. So we're on track for that. What those final numbers are, though, depends on actually what the claim usage is. And we're monitoring it closely, and we'll have an accurate number, obviously, at the end of the school year.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Bragan. Mr. Biro Patel.
Yes, Mr. President. So we got the news about resignation of Mrs. Brodowski late last week, and it was certainly disheartening to know that, but sitting here looking at this empty seat is much more disheartening. She has been an amazing board member. It's, in my opinion, my personal opinion, it's going to be very hard to find such kind of good replacement. I know we have wonderful former board members like Mrs. Conway, who did great service to the board for 3 years, and Mrs. Brodowski. I wish she would have stayed with us until the end of the year at least, but it would be a loss to the board. So, but I did call her and ask if everything was okay with her health-wise. She said yes, everything is good, so that's good to know. Our prayers for her, but a very much big-hearted thank you for her services to the Board of Education. That's second to none. Dr. Bragan, I have a question for you. For middle school sports, some of the parents have reached out that they have not had buses to and from for the games this year. So if they are returning, when, and if there are any plans to allocate buses for that, are we going to allocate them now, or maybe we can allocate them from the 30 new buses that we are going to get?
That's a great question, and people know the transportation concerns we had throughout the course of the school year, and I think, while some of ours seemed greater than some of the neighboring districts, it's been an issue for everyone, at least as far as I know, in Middlesex County, New Jersey, and there's a shortage of drivers and other things that have contributed to some of our own specific issues. And when you have to triage what the needs are, sometimes middle school and after-school sports and activities fall lower on the spectrum of priorities when we're looking at getting kids that we're supposed to transport to school as close to on time as we can and on a regular basis. So we appreciate all of our middle school and high school students and parents who had to deal with some of those difficulties in transportation, either being a little bit late being postponed or maybe not even having it for some of the middle school sports where the parents had to drive their students to the events. As the board knows, we approved the purchase of 30 additional school buses. We have a guaranteed delivery date of June. We're in the process now of hiring bus drivers to make sure we have enough bus drivers to drive those buses. We hired 2 bus drivers over the last 2 meetings, and our transportation people are continuing to recruit. And typically what we plan to do with those 30 buses, with our 30 drivers, is to tier those routes, which would be 3 routes. We basically have students that go high school first, middle school, and then elementary, drop off and pick up. And within those routes, we will try to afford opportunities to make sure we have time to pick up the middle school routes. So we hope next year, Mr. Patel, some of those new buses will get rid of that problem that we currently have.
So we'll prioritize for the sports program?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Is high school a priority, and then middle school, and then?
Well, if you were going to triage, right, which is the most important, I think most people would argue that the high school varsity sports are more important than the 7th grade basketball games. Unless you're a 7th grader, you would probably argue that that's not accurate. But yeah, we did try to triage the high school first and then to the middle school, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. That's all, President.
Thank you, Mr. Patel. Ms. Madiger?
Thank you, Doug. So first of all, I would like to thank Carol for her service, and I'd like to speak some more about her when we read out her resolution next week. I also attended a couple of events. The first one was the National Chinese Honor Society, which organized a celebration of the Lunar New Year at Edison High School. It was a terrific event with lots of fun activities, so I'd like to congratulate them for a job well done. Also, I attended the J.P. Stevens Chamber Choir performance at St. Matthew's. It was a dry run performance, a dry run of their performance at the ACDA in Boston going on right now. And only 3 choirs from New Jersey were selected to perform at the ACDA. And I've been attending choir performances for the past 6 or 7 years, and by far this was one of the best I saw. So congratulations to the students, and that would be all.
Very good, thank you. Ms. White?
Right, I just want to mention the School Crossing Guard Appreciation Day. We have been working closely with the police department with trying to get crossing guards. They have such a need, but I do want to say thank you for me and for all of us, really, for all of the good work that they do for Edison's children, keeping them safe and in all kinds of weather. They're an amazing group. And I also would like to say it's been my honor to serve with Carol Badofsky. She'll truly be missed, as you could tell all of us are very, very sad about this. The children, parents, staff, and residents of Edison was and is her priority. And I know she's always going to be watching. And I would like to just thank her for all of her hard work. She was an amazing person. That's it.
Very good, thank you. Couple things from me. One of the things is I think there aren't too many more meetings in this room, right? As you see it. So I hope nobody's getting attached to what you see here, because a renovation is slated, right?
Correct.
Sooner than later?
I think we shut this down February 21st.
So we're close. We have our meeting here tonight. We have a meeting on Tuesday here, the action meeting. That was a project that was already done, budgeted for. We're ready to rock. I mean, the reason we're starting it on February 21st is because we want to get it done for when?
September. Have everything ready to open when we start the school year, September 2022.
So, again, don't get too attached to what you see, but I look forward to a beautiful new auditorium here as we approach September. Very cool. I think we covered everything else. I wanted to talk about the committee of the whole, but I think we did that already. So why don't we move to close board member comments?
Board President, before you close?
Yes, Mr. Shi.
Just when Mrs. Penn and was talking and something came up.
Yes.
So we went to GMI for the Lunar New Year celebration. We went in a little earlier to look at the food service. As we all know that GMI, the food is served in the hallway. And the other thing that we looked at is we visited 3 kindergartens. The kindergarten has about 12 students in there. So we asked the principal, how many students do you have in the morning session? And his answer was, it's probably the same. So now this leads to the question I asked at last meeting is, where are we with the full day kindergarten? He said if we put a full day, we can do it. So I don't know if we are ready to share with the public, because February is when we start the kindergarten enrollment. And if you're not ready to share, you're waiting for the committee reports at the Tuesday meeting, I can wait for that. If you can share that, that'd be great, and let the parents know so they can prepare for their kids. So whatever.
I do not want to steal the thunder from the committee report from the curriculum meeting. That will happen on Tuesday. Mr. Rivera, I look forward to your kindergarten update. I think the news will be positive. I think you're onto something, Mr. Shi, and we hope to have some good news from that committee on Tuesday.
Thank you. I'm glad it's a positive deal. Thank you very much.
Yes, I hope it's a very positive committee report. I also don't want to steal Ms. White's thunder for Tuesday's Township Liaison Committee report. However, I did hear Ms. Joyce last night at the council meeting referred to that meeting, and we were talking about some traffic in town and how there's some trucks going on. Specifically, we talked about Herbert Hoover Middle School and how there's these very large trucks, and it sounds like the council is going to hopefully work with us and work with the Board of Ed to keep our children safe and just improve the quality of life for the people that are trying to get into Herbert Hoover in the morning and exit in the afternoon. So with the exception of going into, I don't want to steal too much thunder and go into details, but in light of the fact you did talk about it at the council meeting last night, that's a little tidbit and some previews of what to expect on Tuesday with our committee reports. So thank you very much. We'll move to public comments. Christo, you have a quick hand. You have 6 minutes, thank you.
6 minutes?
Oh, excuse me 1 second. I'm going to just read my blurb. I know this is the part that you don't like. Do you mind? Don't start the clock, okay?
Oh, wait. I want to record that you're threatening members of the public. Hold on.
Please record it.
1 second.
It's on YouTube. Well, all speakers are requested to express themselves in a civil manner with due respect for the dignity and privacy of others whose legal rights may be affected. Please note, while it is not the board's intention to stifle comment on matters of legitimate concern to the school community, the public should be aware that if their statements violate the rights of others under the law governing defamation or invasion of privacy, they may face personal liability to the injured party. If speakers are uncertain of the legal ramifications of their comments, the board urges them to seek guidance beforehand from their own legal advisor. Thank you, Krista. I'm sorry for the delay.
You just gave me the right to have a rebuttal on your comments that I'm not going to waste here. Are you going to give me a rebuttal?
You have 6 minutes, sir.
Scumbag. So the Sam Joshi crime family took over the town council, they took over the Board of Education, and they took over the library board, as can be seen, with the appointment of Tony D, Phony D. They're telling people, members of the public, that, please, I'm speaking. They're telling people, members of the public, it's a burden to them. I know it's a burden to you. It's a legal formality. Make no mistake, they already chose who that seat was going to many days ago. I know it's a burden to you. I know you're going to give it to your EDO friends, possibly Brett Baker, Shivi. I know you're probably trying to put your friend Padmaya in there. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting what's going on in this town. You don't care who's the most qualified. It's about who you're friends with in this town. Who did we put last time in this seat? Baral Patel, the most corrupt, already has 3 ethics violations on him right now. And you should really resign. It's a disgrace that you're up there. It's even more disgrace, Doug and Brian, that you, his running mates, don't say something about it. It's really disgraceful. Now, about Human Relations Committee, one member that we got 3 members in this room. You guys can't meet up for Human Relations Committee. Same thing happened yesterday. 2 days in a row, over 3 members. yet you guys are avoiding to meet Human Relations Committee. If you watched the town council meeting yesterday, we all know we're trying to build another school here, but I see $200,000 to a company that claims it has projects somewhere on earth. You know, they're smoking something over there. 4 bathrooms for $200,000. We can't build a school. Absolutely disgusting. The town council can't help the Board of Education out with anything, but they know how to overspend on bathrooms so they can get a cut of the money under the table and give it to their friends. Absolutely disgusting. And then when members of the public were trying to be a watchdog and say, hey, you can spend half that money, build the same exact bathroom, they're accusing us of attacking the senior citizens. That's absolutely disgusting. 100% disgusting. Would you like to admit to members of the public how you already picked Brett Baker? No? We're just going to play this game. I think every member of the public out there, including parents, they should all don't even send in the resume. The resume doesn't matter. They already chose who they chose. But send in your letter of intent, and hopefully we can force them to stay here for 5 hours, 6 hours, because you notice how they took away our rebuttals time. They obviously don't want to hear it from you members of the public. So we should have one day where we got 20 speakers, 50 speakers, and I know it's going to be hard. You won't be able to go to the Metuchen Bar and Grill. I know they call it another name, a brownstone, after. That's what you guys always like to do, go to the brownstone. We might hold you up for that, but are you going to give me my rebuttal? Am I going to get a rebuttal? No? You can't sue for defamation. Shivi should know that. It's very limited to what you can sue for. She should know that when she brought Akil Malhotra to the IBA, where they paid his retainer. They paid his retainer, the lawyer, Bocchio, when he defamed a teacher. Did you tell the Edison teachers about that? Rights of others. Rights of others, what? You're trying to use... I'm going to repeat that. So everything you said is absolutely wrong. You should have advised him properly. Instead, you're allowing him to threaten members of the public when we come up here and speak. He was told this the last time. He's continuing to do this. He has disdain for members of the public. You're continuing to discriminate on the Orthodox Christian holidays. It's nice that you guys acknowledge your own holidays. We don't even have off on the Orthodox Christian holidays. You can't even recognize it. I'll go one step further. I'll be in front of you guys, say, hey, can you recognize this state? And they still turn around in disdain. Is there something that you don't like about Christians? Do you guys have disdain for Jesus Christ? What is it? Are you discriminatory? I'd really like to know that. It's starting to feel that way. 1 minute. So Baral Patel, would you like to let members of the public know about that ethics complaint? Obviously, you're not on social media declaring your innocence, so my guess is my ethics complaint went through. Do you want to have some integrity and explain to members of the public? Did it go through or not? And I can answer. When he's forced to resign because the truth is going to come out about him, I'd like that seat. Okay, I know you guys picked Brett Baker for that seat, but I'm reserving my right to his seat. Keep that seat warm for me. Thank God Venkata's here. Real Republicans are coming to these meetings. You see in Freehold, I'm going to put up a video about Freehold. You see parents across the nation coming to the Board of Education meetings more so than the town council to stand up. Brian Rivera, he said gender differences. Brian, kindergarten cop, 1992. They even
Time's
said,
up. Thank you, Christo.
They know, little children know the
Christo,
differences.
thank you.
What do you mean gender differences?
Ms. Orchid.
You don't know how many genders there
Excuse
are, Brian?
me, Christo, please. Ms. Orchid, welcome here. Excuse me.
Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. Yes, I agree, we need more crossing guards. We need better crosswalks so the children can cross the street. Again, I petition a light at the Boulevard of Eagles and Old Post Road. Sidewalks on Preston Street, so when it rains, the kids don't have to walk in the middle of the street and might get hit. Beautiful Edison is having a clothing drive to raise funds to grow a community gardens, clean up, and make Edison, the whole Edison, a beautiful place to live. So we're hosting a clothing drive at Cypress Brewery on February 19th from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Any clothes would be much appreciated. We're also going to be doing many cleanups that would request volunteers from the community. Edison Municipal Alliance is happy to see the BABES program is being implemented in the same manner as it was last year in our schools. We have received positive feedback from the teachers. Currently, we do not have funding to promote the Bridges program at the moment. February 12th at 10 a.m. in the main library would be the Chinese celebration. Everybody's welcome to attend. That same day, there'll be dinner theater here to raise funds for Edison High's Into the Woods. And February 14th, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And I'm sorry also to see Carol stepping down. She was very asset to the Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Orkin. Ms. Conway.
Elizabeth Conway, 20 Netherwood Circle. I've been coming to these board meetings probably for about 30 years, and I was always so used to Dan Michaud. Asking him a question, he always seemed to know it almost instantly, or if not, very soon after. But I would like to say, Anne, I'm just so pleased with your presentation. I have looked in past years at RFPs, and I would want to rip my eyes out after a while looking at them and the stack of them and trying to understand them. And this program looks like it's going to make your life a lot easier. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart because you actually made sense out of it. And I truly appreciate that. And I'm just so thrilled that you have stepped into Dan's spot. Hopefully you'll continue to do that in the future. I know I embarrass you, but too bad. But my question about the program is, it's going to make your life easier, but how much, and I always ask these questions, how much is this costing? Is it a one-time purchase? Is it a yearly fee, monthly? How does that actually work? Is my first question. The second thing was I actually attended the J.P. Stevens Chamber Ensemble presentation the other night at St. Matthew's. They constantly blow me away with how professional and wonderful Mr. Lee and company are, and I wish them all the best of luck. Tomorrow will be when they are going to be performing. So I wanted to always bring that up. The only thing that was brought up today that's a little upsetting, but hopefully you're going to put my mind at ease, is you said you're going to be shutting down the theater here on February 21st, and I so look forward to all the presentations, and hint, hint, I hope he's here, I will still be invited to the presentations by Edison High School's spring performance and any performances that go here, because they are always phenomenal. So how will that take place? And just want to give my kudos to them also. I always feel both high schools are as important as one another, and I support both. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Conway.
Thank you, Mrs. Conway. In regards to the cost of the EC sourcing program, it's just under $25,000 on an annual basis.
And the productions here, Ms. Conway, and every time I've come to one, I have seen you at everything that I've been at. I'm sure you've been coming before that. We're working with Mr. Ross. The theater productions, the music productions, the dance productions that normally would go on here in the spring, we're going to find an alternate location. We're pursuing perhaps Middlesex County College. We're talking about maybe even using John P. Stevens High School. I don't want to say which one the decisions were made because they haven't been yet, but I know Mr. Ross is working with the advisors to those clubs, and I've been in contact with Middlesex County College, which is an option, but we haven't finalized anything.
Mr. Venkata.
Good evening. So I'm going to use my 6 minutes. I'm not going to break it in between. So last week, Shivi threw some numbers that Mr. Dan has gave her. I think, we proved her all over social media that she threw some fake random numbers to support her friends and family business with Middleton Mayor. And the proof of the pudding is she read 20 minutes of the resume of a lawyer. After January, I don't see that lawyer here. This is how they did in 2017 or 19. They show somebody, and after the first month, they'll send somebody else. This is the fraud that she supports year after year. That is number one. Number two, the $5 million saves, I think Dr. Bragan, and 30 school buses. Thank you for that. I think, Jerry, you should take the credit under your leadership in the last year. Otherwise, there are readily some board of members will take the credit for those saves as well. So already those who are running for next year are willing to take the credit. Dr. Bragan, first of all, thank you for the biology club discussion, speaking to Dr. Shellup and trying to issue those 5 young kids that came forward to start a club. I think that is the way of actually starting rather than blindly throwing a name and I want to start a club. I think these kids have spent 3 months to start a bio club and proposal. And I would like to thank you and Mr. Shalap as well. And you look good on the ABC bike and you've been chosen compared to other superintendents. At least we should be proud that we have a superintendent who can be on the national media compared to our neighboring school district superintendents. So coming to the next one, I think Dr. Bragan, our website looks horrible. The JPPTO looks, there are no information. We brought it up 6 months back. The National Honor Society information is not there on the Edison High School. We told to Ross, and nothing has been done. And the only thing that I would like to say that is, we have kids with robotics specialization, excellent Java, JavaScript, Angular, and everything. You can give students, an opportunity to do the projects to fine-tune it. And I think somebody pointing out to me that New Brunswick and South Brunswick, those school websites are much more, from the user experience perspective, much more better than ours. I think it's an opportunity to create some innovative projects to the students to actually fine-tune, either give them the UI UX experience or actually fine-tune our websites. So I think it's a project that we could give it to our students. The next one is school guards. I know it is the county's job, and I'm seeing for the last 1 week, either morning or evening, we don't find some police or the guards. I know it's challenging times. Maybe at some point you guys need to think that how to collaborate with police department to ensure that at least our primary schools, elementary schools, and middle schools have proper guards over there. And I know the community center, I don't know how much you guys are aware that Stelton is closed and there was only one community center open. 2 years back, the kids used to play 3 hours basketball, evenings and regularly from 12 to 3 or something. Now all these adults are going and putting my shuttle badminton or ping pong ball or other stuff. The kids are hardly playing an hour a day. That means our students, your students, are spending time on the streets, not playing in the community center, the basketball or whatever they want to play. Do you guys want to partner with the council people or township? I think these guys are more interested in giving 200K 4-bathroom contracts, but they don't give a damn about the community centers and kids play time. You guys has to demand that our right to have our kids to play in the community centers. I think that 3 hours time is reduced to 1 hour is not acceptable. And I know there are some council people here, they don't give a damn about whether kids are on the streets or not. They only talk about bathrooms. And Our flip-flop mayor, he supported ward member, and we are thanking council members here. And are you guys trying to lead by example? I think this board is much more powerful, has some dignity to the chair, don't even care about the council team. Last night, the way the mayor changed his stance, last night, the way that the council members behaved and voted ward system against, I have lost trust on the council department completely. Please lead by example and try to follow your own standards. I think last year, Jerry's team has cut down the cost, zero tax increase that I see, at least from the budget perspective. Please don't follow the council way of spending the money. They are spoiled. They can spend any money they want. They can hire anybody they want. But at least lead by example and teach them that who is at the helm and who can take the right decisions. I hope, Doug, I look up to you. You will be a better delivery person than the so-called leaders who come and preach for dignity from the council. So I think I'm looking forward to have a better year like last year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tony. Mr. Di Pasquale, I'm sorry. Miss Anita, you're next, okay? I'm sorry.
Tony Di Pasquale, 2 Pine Street. I just have a question about the bidding software. So the questions I have are, when the companies go in to put their bids in, do they see other people's bids, or are they all hidden, is the first question. And then the second question is, if they do, and I don't know if you can answer that now or not, but if they do or not, are they able to change their bids after they see the other bids? And then the other question I have is, what access do board members have to that? I know you said only a few people, but I mean actually the reports. Like if, as a scenario, if a board member, if the bids went in and those bids were visible, and a board member requested, a report on the bids that are there already, are they able to see that information? Because my question and concern is that if there was a possible that somebody on the board knew another company that wanted to bid, but they saw the bids already, and for some reason they felt it was good to communicate that bid so they can come in and lower, is that all possible, is my question. I'm just wondering what the procedure is, that how secure is that, and is there a way that's secure that it's not open to other people that could possibly try to sway the bidding process by giving information out that shouldn't be given out. So that's just my question. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. In regards to the privacy of the bids, if you're a competitor bidder, you cannot see another person's bid, so you have no idea what another bidder is bidding. We don't make anything public until the bid is actually closed. So we cannot even see the numbers or values until that bid is closed, okay? So in regards to accessing the reports, after the bid is closed, we can generate the reports, we can download them into Excel, and we can email them out to the bidders, to the board members if they request it. As far as being secure, it is on our server, which is a secure server. So again, you can't just go into the program. You actually have to be invited into the bidding process. So you would have to contact us, we would need your contact information, and we would invite you to bid on that specific project. Okay, thank you.
Board President?
Yes, Mr. Shi.
Just to add on top of that, is it possible instead of hosting in our own, instead of hosting the data on our own server, can this be in the cloud and have the vendor actually hold it? The reason I'm saying this is because we all know that last year when we had the IT audit, right? Nobody, the head of IT, the superintendent, and none of the board member knew the IT audit result. But in public, someone who knew the audit result way before any of the people who are supposed to know. So I am concerned with our IT groups, can they actually keep the secret of this? So Tony did bring up a good point. Is it possible we can look at to have this hosted in the cloud instead of our own IT people who have access? Because we have seen that happen last year.
Board President, can I comment?
Yes, Mr. Rivera.
I'm just listening to what Mrs. Gluck said and what the presentation said. So there's only 4 people that have access to anything that's on there, correct?
It would be the 4 of us in the district, and then our liaison with the software provider.
So I think what Mr. Shee's looking for is, I guess, some type of lockbox where specific people only have access to it, and it goes between you 4 people. If it gets out, then it's one of you 4 that did it. So I think that's what you're looking for, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, I want this to be secure. I don't want any of the people in our IT department go through the back door and look at it. That's the point, right? If we can guarantee that, then it's fine. Because I gave you the example. That's what happened last year with some internal thing that's happened.
Mr. Shee, just to, and sorry to interrupt, but I too have security concerns. For example, there's times that emails get sent out, actually recently, that somehow the public gets access to the information.
Correct.
So, excuse me. So, my question is not just to the IT department, but everyone. How safe is the electronic information? It's not just about bids.
That's a fair point.
So I think that we all have a personal responsibility here to make sure that we're protecting the integrity of everything we do, including the bidding. I think that this is a good solution, which I believe you introduced last year. And it might not be perfect, but I think that you're onto something here. So I hope that this software helps us.
Can I just quickly add something?
Yeah.
Just quickly. So, so the 4 people in our organization, that's fine. They should have access to it. But I'm not comfortable with the company, the liaison for the company having access to these bids. So that's something we need to look into, because I mean it's good that only 4 of you have access, but an outsider should not have access to any bids, including the company that has given us the software. That raises huge concerns.
Agreed.
Board President, can I add something to that, please?
Yes, Mr. Patel.
Thank you. In regards to the cloud, which Brian brought up, which is actually a brilliant idea, a lot of these companies do have their wallets, or basically their clouds, that are secured. And if we could talk to the vendor and see if they will secure this bid in their cloud, it would be actually prudent for us to do that and make sure that it's all secure in that sense, and not everybody is going to have privy to that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anita.
Mr. Board President. could you
Yes, Dr. Bragan.
Great questions been going on, and I think we may have misspoke earlier. The EC sourcing software is based in the cloud. It's not on our server.
Thank you.
It is already in the cloud. It's not on our server. We access it through our website, in which we have the links on, but the hosting is done with the company. That's already taken place.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms. Anita, we called on you a few times, and
It's okay, thank you so much.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
No, thanks.
Nice to see you.
And thank you, Christo, for saying ladies first, but that's okay. I wanted everybody to go in the front, because I always come in the front, cutting everybody's chance. First of all, thank you, Jerry, for mentioning about the robotics, and thank you, Shivi, too, about the choir. Excellent performances. I want to wish, all the residents want to wish both the high schools very best of luck. One team is going to Boston, another team is going to Virginia. All the best. And I had a chance to look at some of the performances of the robotics team this weekend, and both the high schools were excellent. Dr. Bragan, you said that you knew some organization which can give parts. I'll ask the kids to reach out to you directly, so that way you can help them. I also wanted to take this chance to thank Ms. Carol Badowski. If anybody would come to the EHS Band Festival, you would see Carol Badowski and Ms. Conway attending every band festival. If you were to walk in the community in a fall festival, you would again see Carol Badowski and Ms. Conway, of course, and any choir performances. They used to be always an integral part of the community and used to help in the development of all the students in Edison. So thank you so much, Carol Badowski, for all that you have done for our Edison School District. She's a role model for everybody, how you can be a part of the community and still serve the board, and a very honest person and a very great role model. Other things, yes, Crossing Guard Day, thank you very much. Rain, sun, snow, they are there, and in fact, whenever I drop the kids up to Edison High, there are two to three dedicated crossing guards who always are there to help the kids crossing. Couple of things I just saw on the Facebook, maybe, for the improvement for the future. I saw some residents talking about Herbert Hoover, the traffic while dropping the kids. So maybe the Edison Police Department can help in regulating the traffic there. And also a couple of other schools like JP as well. I know there are a lot of parents. So maybe how do you regulate the traffic in different public roads? You can ask the EPD to, help you during the rush hour in the morning. And I think, board member, Mohit Patel, last time you talked about life skills, very, very important. And one of the life skills which comes to my mind, because you have a spring break and you have summer coming up, please consider public speaking skills, because it's very important. A lot of board members and Shivi and Biral and everybody and Jerry, we have already spoken that how important is public speaking to the kids, whether you're presenting a research paper or you're doing a professional interview, you're fundraising, you always need public speaking skills. So if you can look at any seminars, camps, anything which can help the kids, Dr. Bragan, if you have any programs for public speaking, please consider that. And also another great thing was IT support for laptops. I think we had an internship last summer. It was a great program. If you can bring it back, and other internships for the summer. And last but not the least, when we talk about 2 more points, student progress, I wanted to applaud the high school kids of both Edison High and JP Stevens. Learning is in school, that is one environment. After school is the second environment. And a lot of the high school kids have stepped up to do mentoring and tutoring, either to the National Honor Society or through tutoring clubs. So they're doing an extremely good job. So I just wanted to applaud them for all their efforts in helping to bridge the learning gap. And last but not the least, about the website, yes. I think the parents, at least I can speak on behalf of Edison High, have been working progressively with the principal, and he has made a couple of changes. But we are in a dialogue, and we are progressing positively in updating the website, especially the National Honor Society and all that. It's a great point because each school website has to be updated as well. And especially high school, sometimes I don't know if the college admission counselors look at the website and see what progress the school has made and what the school is all about. It's a great marketing tool to the external, organizations. So it's a very great point. And if you can look at elementary and middle schools also, how to improve the websites. So thank you all for the incredible work, and hope we all are a tight-knit community. You can always reach out to us as parents for any kind of honest feedback to help you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Something very interesting, you bring up life skills and public speaking and getting the students involved. Something that just popped up in the past couple of weeks is that our board will now have, starting next year, our board will have a student member. And we haven't worked out all of the details with that, but that was at the state level. The state is requiring us. Not that it shouldn't be required. I think it's a great idea anyway. And we will internally talk about how we're going to handle that, and we'll work with the building principals, but there will be a student representative up here with us from the district. So it kind of parlays into the point that you made, how valuable public speaking and everything could be, and obviously learning the inner workings of what we do. It would be a non-voting member, but it would be a member nonetheless. Gentleman right here.
Board President, can I ask?
Yes, Mr. Shi.
Yes, sorry. Anita, you brought up a couple of points. The other thing, one is the internship program. Dr. Bragan, just want to confirm the internship is still going on with students, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so just to let the public know, we still have the students who are coming to the IT department as interns to help some of the computer issues. And the other thing that Anita brought up is the after-school program, and she brought that up. And I think last year due to the not enough people from the township program to take care of the after and before a program, we have another vendor that's coming in to fill the gap. Is that still going on? And how is this new vendor doing? Just want to, just brought up this Anita just brought up, so I just reminded me.
Yeah, that's correct. It's right at school. They haven't been operational yet. They're still getting all the certifications. You got to get state certifications to be a place for before and after school. And just another note, we already have a public speaking class at our high school as an elective. So I don't know how many students sign up for it, but we already have public speaking, and it's a great skill, as our board president mentioned as well.
Thanks. Sorry.
Your name?
My name is Francisco Velasquez, and I am a former student of Edison Public Schools. To start off, budgeting has always been a very big issue, not only within the educational community, but within the city itself. So just to start off, teachers have been getting infected at a fairly decent rate recently, and one of the biggest questions that I myself have is how much of taxpayer dollars are being spent for daily for coverages for teachers who are not able to get a full day sub. It is my understanding that if a teacher has 6 classes a day, there must be 6 coverages paid for per teacher, and that's an average of about $180 a day per teacher. The shortage of subs is felt overwhelmingly throughout the nation. I myself, as an education student, I plan on becoming a sub after my 30 credits. But it's how we react to these situations that really distinguish us from other districts, our neighboring districts as well. However, with these shortages come regulations and restrictions that need to be met and followed. It has come to my attention that a couple of parents came up to me and they mentioned that special ed teachers have been taken out of inclusion classrooms to substitute for gen ed classrooms, and that is illegal and it is a violation of special education law. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but I'm just recommending that this investigation be held because the IEP for these special ed students are not being met. And in doing this, these actions are practically telling these special ed students that their education is not as worth as much as their peers who receive Tier 1 instruction. Overall, I feel like the shortage of subs can be dealt with a lot more better, and I feel like special ed teachers should not be taken out of inclusion classrooms to sub for other classes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Points well taken. The coverages are a problem. We would agree with you on that, and there has been a substitute teacher shortage. And when we do have those absences covered by other teachers covering on their prep times, your numbers were almost exactly right. I think it's $186 it costs for that. When a substitute teacher that's certificated would be $120 currently, or $100 for a non-certificated. We made great strides. If you see the agenda on Tuesday night, we have more substitutes that we're approving. Dr. Aldarelli's done a great job in trying to recruit from our colleges. That's where we get our people that are aspiring teachers. I encourage you, if you know anyone that's interested, please contact their office. We'll try to streamline that. The qualifications to be subbing have been reduced a little bit, making it a little easier to get more people in the classrooms. Obviously, we don't support or encourage anyone to compromise our special education students' programs by pulling teachers. And if that's occurring on a regular basis, please let us know. I'd be lying to you if I sat up here and said, no, that's absolutely never happened, because I'm sure it has. And when you're triaging an emergency situation, sometimes you have to pull from competing bad options. And I'm not going to condone it or say it's the right thing to do ever. I hope it doesn't occur on a regular practice. If it does, we will look into it. And if there's any parents that are entitled to, or students that were educational services that were denied, we will make sure we make those up. So please have them encouraged to talk to our building principals, their case managers, or if not, they can talk to me. Thank you so much for bringing that up, though.
Mr. President, can I
Thank you.
comment?
Mr. Rivera.
Just a suggestion out there, Dr. Brady, maybe if there is an in-class resource teacher with a general ed teacher, instead of pulling the ICR teacher, maybe we could pull the general ed teacher, just to make sure that our special ed kids are getting the instruction they have with their particular teacher. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Ms. Joyce.
Good evening. On a positive note, I attended the Lunar New Year at Edison High. It was very, very good. And I noticed when we went through some of the materials and stuff, that the ethnic groups overlap other groups when the things that they think is just synonymous with their group. And then I had a real nice time at the multicultural event that we had at the other school too, and I thought it was completely excellent. And I also would like people to know that they are like out of the top 30 technical schools in New Jersey. I mean, we have like we're in the top 30. And the other kind of schools, they used to call them vocational schools. Those schools are called technical schools. And kids have the option to go to those type of schools within New Jersey, which is a plus. And the last thing I'm saying about things being let out, it seems like things are on WhatsApp before you get out of their private meeting, which I find quite disturbing at all. Me, I don't care. They talk about me all the time horribly on WhatsApp, but who cares? You know, it's not that important, back and forth. But I'm just really disturbed at how you would have a private conference and it leak out to the public through apps. I think I have problems with that. I would think that people who sit in seats should have more integrity than that. And last but not least, I'm really going to miss Carol. I spoke to Carol a lot. We talked about education, different books and stuff that we read. And people who give up their time it's a thankless job. So I just want to thank her over and over again for her time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manesh.
Manesh Patel, 240 Walman Ave. Mr. President, I will thank you. In your time, I noticed within 6 to 8 weeks, some of your board members got a lot smarter. At least they're thanking the kids, they're thanking the teachers, and at least they're a little better than what they were years before. First thing, you know where I'm going to start from. My money for my J.P. Stevens music band and my Edison High School music band. I have sent you an email with all the list. I'm sure you got it from Mr. White, but please take care of it. They need it badly. On a positive note, everybody talked about choirs doing very good and the other programs of music doing very well. My question to Dr. Bragan is, sir, are we giving them enough money? Because I was just told on my way to the meeting that the choir is going to Boston and there is another one going to Virginia, and they were trying to fundraise the money for the bus. Come on, we are $358 million budget, and the kids needs to fundraise. I love it if they do it for their lunch and their party that they want to do there after they win, but not for the buses. We can provide that. From here to Boston, I would say if you call Raritan, they will charge you about $1,600 to $1,800. And I'm sure we can afford that. If you think it's an issue, give me a call. I'll find you somebody who will donate that. On the other side, we are doing Edison High School auditorium. Is it going to take 6 months to do it? Because you said it's finishing in September. So when is the JP Stevens Auditorium getting done? Next year? Or how about we just open both of them up in the summer? They have enough time. Nobody's here. Why take, how are you going to take the kids out of school and do theater in Middlesex County in 30-minute program? I mean, event, yeah, but where are they going to perform? How are they going to do it? That's another thing to think about. One other thing is, somebody just said about bidding. Why can't all of you out of the bids? Let the bid be open on the night, not 2 days before. You shouldn't even have a right to look at it. Only thing you should have is Venkat bid it, Minesh bid it, Miss Carol bid it, or Miss Conway bid it. That's all you should know. 4 people bid the bids. You should not know what's in that bid. Nobody should be allowed to open it. I think the bid should be locked until the night it has to be open. You could do 2-hour meeting of your own, closed doors, and then come out and say it. But it should not be week before, because I will tell you one thing. Mr. President decided on the committee. And before the meeting, 3 hours before the meeting, as he said, he was on my WhatsApp group who had which committee and what they were going to do. Come on. This is something ridiculous. Your info within 8-9 of you is going out before even the public should be. Public should know at the same time. I'm not the favorite, so I should know first, or she should know first, or the other one should know first. It should be all at the same time. Excuse me?
Quiet back there, please. Thank you.
I understand, and it should be for all, them and us both.
Address the chair, please, Minesh. Thank you.
My simple request is, just as you telling us, saying these are the law when you speak, I think every one of you should sign one that says all the information is released by the president, VP, or Dr. Bregan should not be given to public until it's for the public and it's done in this meeting. I think attorney should look into it and have everyone sign it, because this info should be given out at the same time. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Minesh. Mr. Revnick.
Mr. Board President, can
Yes.
I make a few comments?
I'm sorry, Mr. Revnick. Dr. Bregan?
Minesh, I don't think myself or anyone on the board would disagree that with your passion for the music programs, and we will do whatever we can to support them as best we can, and that's a discussion with the finance, the Budget Oversight Committee, as well as our full committee of the whole, and where those allocations will go. But I think I can speak for myself and the majority of the board that you have support for our music programs with the people up here. Regarding the bid openings, there's a process for that. And any bid that's awarded, all the other bids, competing bids, are placed on the agenda as well. So you see exactly what the bids are. For bigger bids, like let's take an example of the Lincoln Elementary School Addition project, those bids were opened in a room with all the other, with all the vendors that provided bids there, and there's a process to it. So there's not a lot of room for malfeasance at that point. Everybody's in the room, they see you open the sealed bids together. The software just allows us that option to do it in an electronic format, but it's still, there's a process there. So you have my commitment as the Chief Administrative Officer and Ms. Gluck's commitment from the business office that we're not going to allow any of that to take place. The last thing about, I understand your frustration for the auditorium and the time it's going to take. I'm equally as frustrated as I'm sure Mr. Ross is in trying to navigate having 3 months of school remaining, 4 months of school remaining, and having the auditorium shut down. We worked with our architect, and I don't know if you're aware or not, but the building trades now are very difficult to secure, to get things done in a timely manner, and they assured us if we waited until June, it would not be ready for September. So, in consultation with the high school principal, he decided, let's bite the bullet now, let's be proactive, get it done so we can open the year correctly. It stinks, we're not happy about it, and it will cause some logistical things. and some of our students in our productions, in the music productions, as well as the play and other things that use this auditorium, including the board meetings. We have to work around, and logistically, we'll figure it out, and we'll do the best we can. Thank you, Mr. Board President.
Board President?
Thank you very much. Mr. Shi.
Yes. I just want to make a comment on this. Quote, leaking information brought up twice in the meeting. I just want to remind the public, the people who come here talking about leaking information, you knew what happened a year ago when we tried to fill Bureau's position, okay? We had a closed session discussion. Closed session discussion, by law, stays in the room. 20 minutes after the closed session discussion was over, some of the people who applied for the position knew exactly what I said, what Mrs. Penn said, what Mr. Patel said, some of the other board members said about their qualification. If you're talking about by law, that's a law. You got to keep it quiet. So the people who are actually advocating for that is the one who actually broke that law. Okay? So that's what it is.
Tony.
It's not your. I have the floor. Respect. Respect.
Tony. Christo, can you please sit down? Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Board President. The people, it's just mind-boggling.
Okay,
The
thank you,
people,
Mr. Shi.
They
Mr.
come
Revnick?
here, they do the thing, and they just do the same thing.
Thank you, Mr. Shi. Mr. Revnick.
Matt Revnack, ETA Vice President. First of all, Carol Badowski, just want to kudos to her. I've known Carol a while, at first as a teacher, and then as obviously a board member. She's a lady of few words, but when she speaks like E.F. Hutton, everybody listens. Her speeches, her thoughts, what she communicates was always well thought out, and she will definitely be missed. But best wishes to Carol, and hopefully you'll get a replacement that's somewhat as good as Carol was. Second thing, Mr. Rivera, I just want to thank you again. Even though they're not our members, but acknowledging teachers get a lot of recognition, administrators get recognition, but a lot of times our support staff doesn't. And even though they're not even ETA members necessarily, our bus drivers, crossing guards, our food service people, they're all integral parts of the community as well. So it's nice that you did acknowledge them. Well said. The reason why I really got up here, beside Carol Badowski, and that's to address Mr. Patel's statements before attacking the ETA and association. We do not get a dime from the district to be union reps. We are a private organization, basically. The district pays us nothing. I'm the vice president. We have our second vice president sitting in the back and a couple reps. They've never received a dime from the district. So to make accusations of stuff like that is totally false. And before you do so, please get your facts straight.
So,
hold on, I'm talking.
Sure.
All right? In terms of the clubs, hey, listen, there's nobody bigger for students and their fundraising efforts than the teachers and the people in the schools. I probably have more J.P. Stevens shirts than I can wear for the next year without having to wear a second one. Cheesecakes and oranges and coming to athletic events and school plays and everything else. So we're a big part of that. And as far as the ETA goes in the association, all the money and things like that we have helped and saved and helped raise funds and save the district should be looked at as well. Okay, Mr. Kassane, I believe, is in the audience. We negotiated a deal a couple years ago for the armed security that saved approximately, if I remember right, it was about $2 million rather than going through the Edison Police Department. We didn't have to do that. It's kind of unique. I brought up last meeting about us having a give back years ago when, there were financial straits, dire straits in the district. We do all kinds of activities for the kids, like our trunk or treat that's totally sponsored by the association and our members. The district pays for nothing. And even our president, the district gets reimbursed for his salary and his benefits. So there is nothing that our union members, our union leaders are getting from the district. But yet we're here and we try to work cooperatively with the administration and the board to solve and settle issues, to try to save money. We're meeting with Dr. Bragan next Tuesday to try to save some money on something. So to throw out these false accusations, please get your facts straight in the future. Even when we negotiate contracts, We're very reasonable. Mr. Shee's been in negotiation with us. He can verify it. We're not unreasonable. We come to an agreement. The board approves it. Our membership approves it. Neither side is always happy about everything, and neither side is sad about it. That's the way negotiations go. But we've never been unreasonable with that. And to constantly be attacked just because we're a union, that's wrong, especially when it's totally untrue. And once something's said, it's out there. So before it's said, think twice about saying it. And final thing, I don't understand why you're not wearing a mask when everybody else in this auditorium is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? No? Mr. Ross?
Mr. Ross, Principal, Edison High School. I just wanted to thank everybody for the kind comments about all the different events that they've been coming to. You know, of course, Edison High, also J.P. Stevens. And just invite everybody out. Ms. Conway told me tomorrow night we have, closing down the auditorium, we're going to have our solo dance concert. You're going to see our dance program was started 5 years ago at Edison and J.P. It's really taken off, and we've got 6 solo dancers who've choreographed their own pieces that they're going to do on the stage here tomorrow night. If you leave my name at the door and give $5, you can get in, and it's going to be great. It's going to be unbelievable. They're going to do a Q&A where the dancers describe all of the great things that they do. And one of the things that I love about being back in person is all of these different experiences. If you want to double up, we've got the TJ Hoover basketball games prior to the dance show, so you can get like a whole day of entertainment here tomorrow night at Edison High School. So I'd love to see that. And again, appreciate Dr. Bragan, the board, and everybody for helping us to keep refurbishing this great high school, especially Mr. Kolibas in the back. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Any other public comments? You have 1 minute left. I've been keeping track. Mr. Manesh, would you like to speak?
Out of 1 minute, let me use it. One point I forgot to make. I got a call again today in reference to changing that music and art 50-50. Are you guys seriously thinking about doing all school at the same time, or are you just doing one school? Because if you do music first 6 months of the year, September to January, maybe February, and don't do the rest, when it comes to the next one, kids not going to take music again. Thanks.
I appreciate that, and I believe the curriculum committee will address some of that on Tuesday. Thank you. He had 1 minute left. I kept track. Christo, please. We have a resolution to move to a privileged session. Christo, please sit down, please.
So you're breaking procedure now. You're breaking procedure.
Would you like?
Motion.
Do we read the resolution?
Yeah.
I read the resolution?
Do I have a second motion?
Motion.
Can I have I'm making a motion to move to privileged session.
Second.
I said motion.
A second.
Second.
Roll call.
Okay. Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Mohan Patel? Mr. Mohan Patel?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Penn?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
Mrs. Madiker?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
All yes, motion is carried.
Is this guy a fucking threat?
You gotta read it.
Why? Because he...
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Edison, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussion of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Attorney-client privilege discussion regarding student matters, Edison Wetlands contract, property purchase, litigation brought by former employees and students, ETEA grievances, PERC unfair labor practices,
and personnel matters. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately. So motion to adjourn privileged session?
We should have read it first, that's fine, we already have.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are now adjourning to privileged session, and we will adjourn the meeting from there. We will not be voting on anything tonight. Thank you.